So 2024 is almost over, like we have at most 2 weeks left until the year ends, and I have this illustration that's rotting away in my iPad and it's finally getting done. A fate that's a lot better than most of my other illustrations, which exist as messy sketches that don't actually lead anywhere. But yeah, depressing mood aside, I want to talk about the fact that I have this compulsive need to finish things despite knowing full well that I'll hate the process, hate myself, and most importantly, hate the finished product. So as you're seeing in this video, I do the line art nicely, but then struggle and eventually give up when it comes to actually rendering this line art. I mean, sure, there were a few hit illustrations where the whole rendering process flowed super smoothly and I love the final piece and everything's just perfect, but those moments are actually few and far between for me. Most of the time though, whenever I try to actually color things in, there's always something that just feels wrong. Like I'm trying way too hard to compensate for something, like a lack of fundamentals or just something just feels awfully wrong about it. But you know what? Instead of either just starting again or simply giving up like a normal person and taking a break, I decide to push on. Sunken cost fallacy sinks in, and because I've wasted the entire afternoon struggling with a piece that's essentially failing, I try to hype myself like, you can do it. Like, come on. Like, you spend this whole afternoon already. You've wasted so much goddamn time. You have to finish it now. Otherwise, this was a waste of time and you could have done something else and you feel bad about yourself, okay? Anyways, the pieces that fail often lack any real value structure, like the highlights are just too bright. I've abused the airbrush tool to sort of compensate, to act as a smokescreen of sorts to sort of conceal my illustrations. I say it's to create a soft look, but in translation, it means I am using excessive lighting to cover up the fact that I have no idea how to apply lighting in this particular scenario, in this particular environment, and I didn't bother to reference things properly or to practice, and now it just looks so bad. And also the shadows are way too dark and the colors are just not unified at all. Like, me pushing it all to max saturation doesn't change the fact that the layers just aren't working together, and it just and the color theory is bad, and oh my gosh, it's a lot of problem. Like, I'm thinking of a specific illustration that just makes me cringe so bad, like not in a good, oh my gosh, I'm indulging in my whim sort of cringe, but like, oh my gosh, this is actually so bad kind of cringe, I want to die, blah, 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 blah. Mental breakdown aside, I think there's two ways to sort of address this problem. The first way, which I'm going to address now, is just to force myself to finish things, like to just learn to sit in discomfort and realize that, a few bad pieces isn't going to automatically make me a bad artist, and that if I want to get better at a skill, I have to endure a lot of really bad stuff before, the gold starts to come through, right? See? Prophetic. Divine intervention is telling me that's a bad idea, right? Exactly. But on a more serious note, right? Because I've been forcing myself to finish things for years, I sort of have a clear-ish understanding of what works and what doesn't for my art style personally. Like, most notably, I realized this a few months ago. Having a multiply layer mode for shading where I just use the basic dark blue or even purple to shade doesn't work for me. What does though is using straight up gray on a color burn layer and then just adjusting the shade of gray to match the base color of whatever I'm coloring underneath. I find that shading this way sort of makes the shadows look more saturated and more interesting, which is what I prefer. It doesn't dull the colors, and I think it just looks cleaner, and overall it's a lot easier to manage because I'm just using different shades of gray rather than constantly needing to like color pick the shade of like dark blue, the specific shade of dark blue that I've used prior, right? So that's just a fun fact lah. But yeah, obviously I'm like willing to find the process that makes coloring like easier and more efficient. But then it suddenly hit me like, why finish things at all? And I'm not saying this to like throw in the towel and give up, because I genuinely still want to figure out how to color things properly, don't get me wrong. It's just that, why am I forcing myself to do something that I don't want to do, right? Like, that's crazy. I'm not the type to force anyone to do things they don't want to do, so why am I treating myself that way? Crazy, right? I say this because something that I've also realized, apart from the color mode messing thing, is that I love my line arts. Okay, I love it. I feel like my line arts have this very satisfying sense of line weight with a mix of like edges and curves in the noses, the facial structure, and the bodies that I draw. And this like sort of variation in the lines creates substance, which is apt because I like drawing very muscular men. To be horny for a minute, like I like drawing abs, I like drawing the like hip, the waist to hip pipeline, I like drawing titty, I like drawing bellies. I think it's beneficial that I work on my colors to enhance this sense of dimensionality in my subjects. But then again, right, if I'm so attached to my line art as it is, then why not just leave it alone so that, you know, we can just appreciate the line art in its raw, unfiltered glory. It's kind of like how some artists prefer their sketches over like their render that they did in the end. It's kind of like that, but my sketches look like hot shit garbage. Like nobody can understand them except myself. Even I can't understand them sometimes. I guess this is a very specific like, oh my gosh, Jacqueline, what are you yapping about this time? Like, we get it, for real. You're lazy, impatient, and afraid of committing because you're afraid of things going wrong. Like, we know that already. Which, like, true, but wait, what was I supposed to say again? Alright, I remember now. But I feel like I'm at a stage in my artistic career which, while still pretty young and fresh, I suppose, where there's plenty of room to improve, I think I'm at a point where I feel confident enough to just take my final line art, step back and think, okay, sure, this is good enough. Let's leave this as it is. You know, let's not overwork it. Let's just appreciate it for what it is, right? A good drawing. You know, if I'm happy with what I'm seeing, then that's what matters, right? Let's not force things here. You know, abandoning this one idea doesn't suddenly change the fact that, you know, I've improved from doing this drawing, that I've enjoyed the process, that, you know, this is a good building block to articulating bigger and better things for myself. You know what I mean? I think just in general, like, you're allowed to decide what ideas that you have is completed, like what projects are quote unquote completed, such that you have the mental capacity to work on other things that you want to see finished, like for real. I feel like this compulsive need to finish things that I've mentioned at the start, despite knowing full well that I don't actually like what I'm seeing stems from insecurity. Let's just say that, insecurity. Because when this habit started, I was a lot younger basically. Like I'm in my 20s now, but like this was my teen years or whatever the fuck. I was just starting to take art seriously, and I didn't have a portfolio or like any relevant skills. So I kept like forcing myself to finish things. Because to me, like if I could finish things, it meant I was building a portfolio where I could say like, hey, I'm actually not bad at drawing. Look at me go. Not only to flex my skills, but to also say, hey, I'm an artist. Look at this illustration I've made. I'm not lying. I'm not crazy. I'm for real. And if I don't have this body of work, this body of fully rendered pieces which take up to 30 hours to do, if I don't have that, I will feel inadequate, like I have nothing to show for the fact that I'm an artist and that I don't deserve that title, which is obviously kind of dumb, because why the fuck am I thinking that way? Like why was I so mean to myself? Like, chill, man. A guy at work actually for real said, chill, man, to me. And yeah, that's some advice I'm gonna live by for the rest of my life. So like, if you feel bad about yourself, my advice to you is just chill, man. What the But again, on a more serious note, one last time, I feel like I've improved since then. Like I think that I'm good at drawing now. I could be better, obviously. Like this cat looks really creepy. This cat is so queer-coded. But anyway, now that I've improved somewhat, I have skills now. I have a portfolio now. Wow, right? But now that I've reached Buddha levels of enlightenment with my self-image when it comes to art, I can relax, knowing full well that regardless of what I do with my drawings, I am still not just an artist, but a bloody good one at that too. I'm no less of an artist for giving up on things that I have no confidence in seeing all the way through. Sure, it makes me wishy-washy, but I still did the thing, so... Rather than giving up though, I feel like it's just nicer to interpret that as like letting things run its course and knowing when to move on. Some pieces will be finished and some won't. And it's okay either way. You are still an artist and you made something, and that should be wonderful in on itself. And yeah, thanks so much for listening to this video. I know this video was kind of messy and all over the place. This is like a filler in the greater scheme of things because I have like bigger videos planned, so please just enjoy this random revelation I had one day. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video, and before I forget, in case I don't post next week or something, Happy New Year, Happy 2025, and yeah, mwah!